Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ask Allah to make this a beneficial sitting where we are learning the Adhkar and the supplications that have been taught to us by the best of mankind. And what we learn and what we have been learning from this book, Hisn Muslim, is that Islam, and all thanks is to Allah, alhamdulillah, has not left anything out. Nothing big, nothing small, anything that is important to the life of mankind, jinn, and even animals, and even plants, we find being preserved in this pure religion of ours. And one example of that is the chapter that we have today, which is Dua Salat al-Istikharah. Istikhara is chapter 26, and it just comprises of one hadith, which is a long hadith, which has been narrated in Bukhari on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu. And what we mean by istikhara, as we have in the English translation here, for seeking guidance, informing a decision, or choosing the proper course. Often people would rely on their own intellect, they would rely on their culture, they would rely on experience, etc. But this is how detailed and specific this religion is. And as we will see in the supplication that the Prophet ﷺ used to make in this, is very precise in displaying weakness for himself, even though he was the best of mankind, and the need for help for a greater source, a greater being, even though he was the best of mankind. So Jabir radiallahu anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam كان يعلمنا الاستخارة في الأمور. He used to teach us about istikhara in our affairs كلها, in all of our affairs. كما يعلمنا السورة من القرآن. Just as if he used to teach us one of the surahs from the Quran. Now what we learn from this, and this is the beginning of the hadith, I don't know if you have that in the English, but this is what it is in Arabic. قال جابر ibn Abdullah رضي الله عنهما كان رسول الله يعلمنا الاستخارة في الأمور كلها كما يعلمنا السورة من القرآن. What we learn from this, just this opening phrase, is that there are at least two messages here. Number one, that the importance of this dua and the wording that comes within it is just like a surah from the Quran. We can't manipulate the Quran and change its meaning and change its order and change the wording. You can't even change a harakah from changing it from a fatha to a kasra without it sometimes changing the meaning. Likewise, this dua has a great deal of importance in the way that a person is benefited in his dunya. Now, nobody is saying that this dua is the same as reciting Fatiha or Kursi or anything from the Quran, because the Quran is from the speech of Allah. What we learn from this, though, however, is that the guidance that the Quran brings to us is found in this istikhara dua also. So when you supplicate, asking for Allah to make your affairs easy, and this is one of the things that we should be benefiting from the Quran, and how to become better individuals and how we can become upright in our lives, this dua, al-Istikhara, will give you those things also. So these are the two meanings that we learn from this opening phrase: the importance of it, the virtue of it, but also the impact that it has on a person's life. And I'm sure we've talked about alif and sin as a prefix. So whenever you've seen istighfar, istikhara, isti'ana, istighatha, it always refers to seek something. And istikhara linguistically stems from khar, and yukhayr, as in he is seeking guidance and he is seeking the right decision. The ulama of the Arabic language have said that this basically means تطلب الخير في الأمور منه, that he is seeking the right decision, the guidance from Allah Jalla wa Ala. This is the linguistic definition, but the technical definition. So now, dua salat al-istikhara. The word istikhara means to have uprightness and guidance. But what does it mean technically? So if I say, for example, oh Allah, guide me to a way which is better, is that istikhara? Linguistically, yes, but dua and technically, no. So when we say istikhara, we are talking about this particular supplication in itself. Now, this Salat al-Istikhara, is it the 2 rak'at, or is it the dua, or is it the dua with the salat? And as we will see, as we carry on with today's lesson, that the ulama, or the majority of ulama, agreed that if a person doesn't pray the rak'at, the 2 rak'at, if he just makes the dua, then he is considered as those who have done the istikhara. But technically, if we just avoid any kind of difference of opinion, Salat al-Istikhara in its technical form is either dua or the salat, or both. What's the ruling on dua, Salat al-Istikhara? Despite what Jabir has said in this opening line, the ulama, the majority of ulama, Jumhur, have said that it is mustahab. And there's another narration, or in this narration also, the rest of the hadith, Jabir narrates from the Prophet ﷺ, إِذَا حَمَّ أَحَدُكُمْ بِالْأَمْرِ. If any of you have something which is a matter of importance, or a matter where a decision needs to be made, فَلْيَرْكَعْ رَكْعَتَيْن مِنْ غَيْرِ فَرِيضَةٍ. This is the point here. غَيْرِ فَرِيضَةٍ, which means that it is not wajib. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ has taught Jabir the ruling of this dua, the istikhara, is that it is mustahab. But that doesn't lessen the importance, because if you go back to the very first sentence, كَمَا يُؤَلِّمُنَ السُّورَ مِنُ الْقُرْآنِ. When do we make istikhara? What is istikhara for? The ulama again are agreed here that it is not something that a person supplicates for, which is something which is obligatory in the religion, or something which is haram. So, for example, a person, does he pray Salat al-Istikhara whether he needs to pray Fajr tomorrow morning or not, or whether he needs to be obedient to his parents or not, or whether he should stop drinking alcohol, or whether he should stop being with certain people in his life? If it is haram, if it is wajib, there is no istikhara for this. Istikhara, the purpose of istikhara is for something which is mubah or mustahab. Mubah or mustahab. And what we learn from this ruling, or the way we do it, is either a person has 2 or more options in which he is seeking to benefit in his dunya or in his deen. So an example of that in his dunya, shall he get married to this woman or this man, or shall he go for this job, etc. He has more than one option, and he does Salat al-Istikhara. Or for his deen, and we find this in many examples from the Salaf. I'm sure you're well aware that Imam al-Bukhari used to recite Salat al-Istikhara and make this supplication before he used to put a hadith into his Sahih. And this is now an option. Does he put it in? Doesn't he put it in? He's making istikhara to have uprightness, have the guidance, have his way seen for him correctly in a matter of his deen. So now we've looked at the meaning, we've looked at the ruling, and we've talked about when does a person do it. He does it if something is mubah, or something which is mustahab. Now mustahab, a person could have different options. So for example, if a person has an option to go with a particular package for Hajj, and another person is offering him another package, either this one is mubah, or you can think of an example of something which is mustahab. However, there's another way that the ulama have said that we can pray Salat al-Istikhara for, which is to ask Allah to make a path easy for you. To ask Allah to make a path easy for you. So even if you have made a decision and you think that this is the right decision, you can make Salat al-Istikhara for asking Allah to make that path easy for you. When does a person pray Salat al-Istikhara? Istikhara is performed when a person is unsure, when the matter is not clear, when his heart has not settled with a particular opinion. And we can learn from this also, this particular time when to pray, is some of the ulama from the Salaf also used to pray Salat al-Istikhara to ask Allah to give them the correct understanding or the correct conclusion or fiqhi opinion, etc., from the different opinions that exist. So like Imam al-Qurtubi said, وينبغي له أن يفرق قلبه من جميع الخواطر حتى لا يكون مائن إلا أمر من الأمور. That when a person is unsure what he should do in that scenario is completely vacate everything that he thinks as an option. And then he performs the Salat al-Istikharah. When he performs the Salat al-Istikharah, he prays 2 raka'at min ghayri farida ثم يقول اللهم إني استخيرك بعلمك. Oh Allah, I'm asking for your guidance with your knowledge. What is the ilm of Allah? I'm pretty sure we've talked about this also before. The ilm of Allah is that Allah is fully aware of everything that happens, that has happened, and even if that thing doesn't happen, how it would happen and what would be the implications of that thing to happen. So His knowledge is actual knowledge, and it covers all hypothetical situations also. That is the ilm of Allah. Allahumma istakhiruka bi-ilmik. And with that, you are recognizing Allah's knowledge is so comprehensive and profound. That's why you are making tawassul with Allah through this dua. وَاسْتَقْدِرُكَ بِقُدْرَتِكَ. And your ability, I'm seeking ability through your ability. وَأَسْأَلُكَ مِنْ فَضْلِكَ الْعَظِيمِ. And I'm asking you from the bounty which is vast with you. فَإِنَّكَ تَقْدِرْ وَلَا أَقْدِرْ. And now here we are going to a different part of the dua, where the Prophet ﷺ taught us to show tawheed, which is the first part. You are affirming names and attributes and actions for Allah. But this second part now, the supplicator is displaying weakness. فَإِنَّكَ تَقْدِرْ وَلَا أَقْدِرْ. You are fully able, whilst I have no ability whatsoever. وَتَعْلَمْ وَلَا أَعْلَمْ. You have knowledge and I have no knowledge. And everything that I know is through your bounty and what you have given to me from your ilm. Now if we learn from this, we also learn that Allah is Ar-Rahman, and none of us can ever show mercy without Ar-Rahman giving us a piece of that mercy. None of us can ever be pardoning without Allah showing us how to pardon. None of us can ever be kind and generous. All of these names and attributes have an effect on a person and his connection with Allah primarily, but also him in himself. So that's why some people, they will think, well, Asma wa Sifat is not important. Well, it's very important. It's important for your Iman, and it's important for your Deen, and it's important for your Akhirah. And specifically here, the person is now asking for help. وَتَعْلَمْ وَلَا أَعْلَمْ. In the beginning, he was affirming the oneness of Allah in His names and His attributes and His rububiyyah. And now he is asking Allah for help, because now he is showing his weakness. وَأَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. And you are the knower of all affairs. And this is very important. The Prophet ﷺ sometimes used to supplicate, وَأَمَيْكِنِ istighfar, أَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ وَأَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. Why would he say Allah al-Ghuyub when he says istighfar? Because Allah's knowledge is all-encompassing. If I was to ask you or ask myself to account for all of the good things and all of the bad things, it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be possible for you to even think about. You can maybe get a rough idea of the bad things you've done in your life. However, you would never be as precise as your master, who is Allam al-Ghuyub. So the Prophet ﷺ used to supplicate and make istighfar by saying, "Oh Allah, I seek your forgiveness and your pardon, and you are Allam al-Ghuyub. I'm asking for everything which I have done wrong, which I don't even know of." And Allam al-Ghuyub also has another implication, which is that He is the knower of all affairs, hidden and apparent. So something, especially in this dua here now, something might seem apparent to me, but you are further aware and fully aware of the implications of the things that I'm about to do. Now, going back to the ilm of Allah is what is literal and what is hypothetical. This is why we are making this supplication here. Now, I've got 2 roads or 3 or 5 roads in front of me. If I take this road, I don't know what the other roads I've missed out on. And if I take this road, I don't know what the implications of it will happen to my future. This is why we're making tawassul through the ilm and the qudra of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Because we are affirming for Him His ilm of what we know and of the hypothetical situations that we are asking for the istikhara from. Allahumma in kunta ta'lam anna hadha al-amr. Oh Allah, if you know for this affair, and then he says the affair, ويسمي حاجته خير لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري. And now this is again very important because the person is making a supplication not for the sake of his dunya alone. And we all know that the purpose of us being in this dunya is not that this becomes our permanent abode. So the person is asking Allah and His assistance, and he is displaying His weakness, and he is attesting to His oneness, and he is showing that this small matter is something which is harming me because I'm your slave, and I'm completely insignificant, and the thing that is harming me is completely insignificant to you, Ya Allah. I want to get married. I need something, affair, fulfilled in my life, but you are the one who brings up the sun every single day and makes it set without any clash, without any delay. The moon, the stars, everything is going through your rububiyyah. So I'm asking you for something which is not difficult for you at all. It is not something which is far beyond your grasp. It's not something which is outside of your ilm and your ability. What is my affair, which is very small, which could be solved in matters of moments sometimes, compared to the things that you do in your actions, Ya Allah? وَيُسَمِّي حَاجَةً. Then he says his affair, خَيْرٌ لِي فِي الدِّينِ وَمَعَاشِ وَعَاقِبَةِ أَمْرِ. If this is good for me, because I am the one that is supplicating, and I am the one that's going to benefit from this istikhara, and I am the one that is seeking to benefit from you and your ilm and your qudra. And again, this is going back to what we were saying in the beginning. Islam has not left anything out. And it attributes every small and major thing back to the tawheed and the ability of Allah and the connection that a master has with his servant. وَعَاقِبَةِ أَمْرِي. Oh Allah, I don't want to be humiliated in my akhirah. And it has been narrated that he can say now ajilihi wa ajili instead. So this refers to this life or the life that is about to come. فَقْدُرْهُ لِي وَيَسِّرْهُ لِي. Oh Allah, facilitate this for me and make it easy for me. ثُمَّ بَارِكْ لِي فِي. Then bless me in it. So again, a person is showing weakness, and he is showing tawassul, and he is showing help, and he is asking for Allah's assistance, and he is asking for Allah's blessing. Not only is he asking, oh Allah, make this affair good for me, but he is asking, make it good for me, and then bless me on top of it, and give me extra from the blessings that you have within you. And then this is the positive side, and now we're going to see the negative side. وَإِن كُنْتَ تَعْلَمُ أَنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرُ شَرٌّ لِي فِي دِينِي وَمَعَاشِي. Complete opposite of everything that we've just said. وَعَاقِبَةِ أَمْرِي. Or قال, you can say, عَاجِلِهِ وَعَاجِلِهِ فَاصْرِفْهُ عَنِّي. Oh Allah, turn this away from me. Or make وَاصْرِفْنِي عَنْ. Or make me turn away from it. You've got 5 roads in front of you, which one do you take? You've made the istikhara. You're asking Allah to push you in the right direction, not to the direction of anarchy and loss. وَقْدُرْ لِي خَيْرٍ حَيْثُ كَانَ ثُمَّ أَرْضِنِي بِهِ. Oh Allah, give me from the goodness, from this decision, and make me pleased with it and make me content with it. The author then says, وَمَا نَدِمَ مَنِ اسْتَخَارَ الْخَالِقِ. It's not possible that a person will seek to make supplication and worship Allah and make this istikhara and ever regret it. That's what the author is saying. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah has said something which is similar, which is that a person is always going to be blameworthy in any kind of excessiveness that he has in any affair. If you pray too much salah, that's excessiveness. If you fast too much, that's excessiveness. If you these are talking about the obligations. excessiveness is something which is haram in the religion. But Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said there is one exception. And that exception is in remembering and worshipping and making dua to Allah. That excessiveness can never be blameworthy. Can anybody ever say that you're remembering Allah too much? Can anybody ever say that you're making dua and thinking about Allah too much? That you are learning about Allah too much? Nobody can say that. That's one point. But the other point is that excessiveness of anything by human nature, biologically, forget spiritually for a minute, even biologically, will cause you to create your own death. If you have too much food, too much drink, if you have too much sleep. But making dua and dhikr and recitation and remembering your Lord and learning about Him will never, and we're talking about excessiveness here, this level of excessiveness will never have a negative impact on the human body and soul. وشاور المخلوقين المؤمنين وتثبت في أمره. Then the author is saying then, after you've made the supplication, dua, you then consult those people who are believers, as the author is saying here. Now, what we learn from consultation is that Islam is a communal religion. You can never be an upright believer by yourself. You can never be a one-man Islam. It doesn't work like that. You will never find that. So Islam shows us the importance of interacting with one another, and that has a positive aspect of it, but it also has the chance for us to worship Allah through the negative. So when will you pardon your brother and show mercy to your brother and help your brother if everything is positive? If your brother has wronged you, or he's looked at you in the wrong way, or he said something bad about you, or he himself is having difficulties in his... All of these are negative examples that can happen in the life of a believer. All of this now has a chance for us to turn that negativity into positive, and it will become an act of worship. So you can pardon him, you can have mercy on him, you can help him financially or whatever it is that he needs. Islam is teaching us that it is a communal religion, and every aspect of us interacting with ourselves, with our Lord, and more importantly, in some instances, in a communal sense, changes the affairs of Islam and the believers from bad to good if we were to follow Islam. Now, if we were not to follow Islam, something which is good can become destructive. So you can have a masjid, may Allah protect us, you can have a masjid, but then people start bickering. People start making ghibah. From something which was originally good, turns into something bad. And we see many examples of this. Islam is a communal religion, and Islam looks at every kind of aspect to turn negative into positive, and to prevent any kind of positive turning into negative. And this is an example of this, where the Shaykh is saying, after you've supplicated to Allah, وَمَا نَدِمَ مَنْ إِسْتِخَارَ الْخَالِقِ, no person will ever regret making dua to Allah, especially making istikhara. وَشَاوَرَ الْمَخْلُوقِينَ الْمَأْمُومِينَ وَشَاوَرَ الْمَخْلُوقِينَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَتَثَبَّتْ فِي أَمْرِهِ. And then he uses the communal aspect of Islam of it also. So now we have in this dua the spiritual, the interactive, the personal, and then the communal. And what we learn from this also then is the importance of having good thoughts with Allah, but also that having good thoughts with Allah, that you have tawakkul, that He will help you, and that there is a point in you worshipping in Him and believing in Him, and that affirming His existence. That's the personal aspect, but there is also a sense of communal, internal acts of worship that you will do with yourself towards other people. So you have good thoughts with one another, and you would genuinely want to help one another. This leads to what? A verbal nasihah, a verbal sadaqah, an uprightness in your speech. So if a person comes to you and says, listen, I've done istikhara about such and such affair, you can then say, through the goodness that you have in your heart towards your brother and wanting khair for him, listen, I can give you nasihah because I've been through the same scenario. Or, I can't, but I can show you somebody who will. Or maybe there's such and such lecture or something. Anything which will create uprightness, which stems from that good initial thought that a person has with other people. But how can you get that if you don't have that with Allah in the first place? And one of the mashayikh, when he was talking about Salat al-Istikharah as a benefit, he said today international laws, if you go to any country in the world, it's a criminal offense to transgress against another person and not show this level of sincerity towards that person. However, what's come of humankind, which is that people are only looking at it in a material sense. And this then becomes a prosecution. So now, if a person X lies to person Y and gives him false advice, most of the time, and I can't think of except a few exceptions, most of the times he will not be prosecuted. So if a person X says to person Y, shall I marry such and such person? Shall I go for such and such job, etc.? And he lies, and he plots, and he does ghiba and all those things, and he mocks him behind his back. Legally, he's not done anything wrong. However, if he was to rob him, if he was to steal his car, if he was to do something else, material, then it will become a criminal offense. But what we learn from that is mankind now have lost that connection between the dunya and the akhirah, where it becomes something illegal to transgress against a person's dunya, not the akhirah, becomes a criminal offense. Why? Because of the perception of their existence in this dunya. You're living in this dunya for the sake of the material gain. Now, if I was to transgress against you and your material gain, it's as if I've transgressed against you for the purpose for why you exist. However, in Islam, is Islam like that? No. Islam is completely the opposite. Islam affirms these things. There's no doubt about that. If you were to transgress, and ulama, I'm sure we've talked about this before, also have included this within the maqasid of the Sharia. However, Islam, and we learn this from Istikhara, the dua Istikhara, and how consultation is very important. Islam sees it as a prosecution for a person to transgress another person in wording also. So there could be slander, which is taken seriously, and you could even be found guilty and lashed or imprisoned or fined because of that. And even in this also. Now, okay, you might argue, well, there's libel laws in the UK and etc., so you can get sued for slandering, yes, but Islam would also see this as an offense, and it could even possibly be held to the other person's account if you were to do something wrong. The Qadi can even decide that in that manner. Why? Because throughout this whole concept of Islam, and we have an example in this here, in Salat al-Istikharah, in the dua, خَيْرٌ لِي فِي دِينِ وَمَعَاشِ وَعَاقِبَةِ أَمْرِي, is that we are living for the sake of using this dunya to gain the highest station possible with Allah in the akhirah. And if you transgress against that, material or non-material, you are hindering your brother's chance in attaining Jannatul Firdaus and attaining the highest possible station that he can possibly get with Allah. And that is a crime. What's the dalil for consultation? That's just a side benefit. But here, going back to the point here where the Shaykh is mentioning وَشَاوَ الْمُخْلُقِينَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَتَثَبَّتْ فِي أَمْرِهِ, Allah says in the Quran, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and consult them in their affairs. And Allah was talking about this in the concept of one of the ghazawat, one of the battles that had a huge impact on the Prophet ﷺ's life, which is the battle of Uhud. And Allah Jalla wa'ala is talking to the Prophet ﷺ in saying that they disobeyed you, and as a result rumors had spread that the Prophet ﷺ had been killed. He was physically hurt to the extent that his metal chains of his armor had pierced into his cheek. He had broken his tooth. His mouth had been cut open and he was bleeding. It was covering his face. And all of this stemmed from them not listening to a simple command by the Prophet ﷺ radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. But what was the Prophet ﷺ's reaction? Allah says in the Quran, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. From the rahmah of Allah, you were pardoning, you were soft, you were compassionate, you were merciful. And this all again reinforces how Islam is a communal religion, and how we have to be within our communities, with one another, with our family members, with everyone around us. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Had you been harsh, had you not been sincere, had you not been displaying dhikr and dua, etc., then they would have fled from you. Who is they? The companions, the muhajirun, the ansar, those people who Allah said that He is pleased with and guaranteed Jannah, just because of manners and the lack of sincerity, and perhaps even the lack of nasiha and good thoughts, the companions would have left you. But within this context, Allah says, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and consult them in your affairs. فَإِذَا أَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And when you have reached a decision, then have tawakkul in Allah. And the Mufassirun, unlike what the Shaykh is saying here, وَشَاوِرْ الْمَخْلُوقِينَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, so he's talking about those people who are believers, and the ulama have voiced this before also, is that who are those people that you should be seeking consultation in? Who do you seek advice from? We have at least 3 or 4 different sifat. Number 1, the people of religion, steadfastness, those people who are classed as the mu'mineen, classed as those people who are practicing Islam and have trustworthiness in their religiousness, and a level of expertise in the thing that you want to talk about. So it's not sufficient that a person is practicing and you think only good of him, but he won't understand the situation that you're going through. There is no or very little use in speaking to such a person. You will need to look to see if there is someone else that is better. Those are 2 characteristics. The ulama have also added a 3rd one, which is that a person who has the right understanding of the situation. So it could be that he is trustworthy. It could be that he knows what he's talking about, but if he doesn't understand the situation, he's not able to give you the correct consultation. There's another thing that the ulama have added, which is that a person can't have an agenda. There can't be any money involved. There can't be any personal gain involved. Because then that could influence the decision that he makes and the advice that he gives to you. Trustworthiness in his religion, expertise. Again, trustworthiness, but trustworthiness in the topic that he is talking about. He has a right understanding of the situation, and that there is no personal gain involved for that person that you are speaking to. Others from the ulama have also added another one, which is that a person who is not known to mislead people. I know this is probably connected to trustworthiness, but if a person is connected to a particular mockery or plotting, or has been known to mislead people, or he has in his characteristics to make ghibah or to mock people, etc., then in that scenario it is not wise for the believer to seek consultation from that person, an istikhara. That is connected to this, but that is in a life lesson. You wouldn't want to speak to people like that, and Islam is preserving us in this. If you know a person, he's always laughing, he's always insulting, he's always talking about other people. Do you know that brother there? I saw him do this and I've heard about that. It doesn't make sense that you want to befriend such a person, number one, but that you confide in that person and you tell him about your own affairs. What we learn from all of this, and from this dua, is that Islam wants genuine progression for us all. And you can only gain that if you're connected to Allah. You have tawheed in Him, you show weakness and you ask Him for His help. But also that we need to help one another also. So we have plenty of examples that the ulama have given where the Salaf of this ummah have made istikhara. And Imam al-Qurtubi said that it's not befitting that a person who worships Allah and Allah knows your internal and your external affairs, لا ينبغي لأحد أن يقدم على أمر من أمور الدنيا حتى يسأل الله الخير في ذلك. That he has a connection with Allah and Allah knows about what is troubling him, and Allah knows about the things that he wants in life, and Allah knows about the things that are important to him. So it's not befitting, Imam Qurtubi is saying, that a person leads his life without making istikhara to Allah. You pray salat, you pray you're doing all these other acts of worship, but it doesn't make sense that something which is important to you, you don't ask Allah about. If it is truly important to yourself, you will show that importance to Allah. And we have an example in the time of the Prophet ﷺ himself. The Prophet ﷺ was consulted by Zayd ibn Haritha when he was married to his wife Zaynab about problems that they had with one another. So Zayd came up to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, I don't want to remain married to her. We're having problems. So the Prophet ﷺ told him to fear Allah and to remain married to her. But it continued. And what we're learning from this, that people who are pious, the best of this nation, had differences with one another, and that is natural. But what we have to learn from this, and the biggest lesson that we learn from this, is that they were sincere. Hassan al-Basri said, the best thing that you can ever the best thing that you can ever do is marry your daughter to a pious man, a man of taqwa. And the reason why is if they get on, they will get on upon taqwa. They will live with one another upon taqwa. And what will that create? That will create only khair for him himself, for her herself, and their children and their household. And bi'idhnillah, and how many times have we seen this? Is that household will have an impact on the ummah. But why would that be important if they disagree? If a man has taqwa, or if she has taqwa, if they disagree, they will be fearful of Allah in transgressing the bounds of Allah and the other person also. So he will deal with her and speak with each other, even if they have problems, in the best of ways. So Zayd is asking the Prophet ﷺ about his wife Zaynab. What do? I don't want to remain married. So the Prophet ﷺ said, have taqwa and continue. He didn't. He came back, and now divorce is here in front of them. So he divorced her. And she was now in her iddah period. And she didn't know what to do next. Zayd is carried on, he's got married again. Zaynab, radiallahu anha, is somewhat in doubt and confused. She said, I don't know what to do, but ma ana sani'a shay'an hatta asta'mar rabbi. I will not do anything until I seek Allah's consultation. So she prayed the dua, she did the salat for the istikhara, and she did the dua for salat al-Istikhara, and she ended up marrying the Messenger of Allah after her iddah was over. Imam al-Qurtubi, going back to what he said, لا ينبغي لأحد أن يقدم على أمر من أمور الدنيا حتى يسأل الخير في ذلك. It's not befitting that a believer wakes up in the morning and he goes through hardship. He stays up late at night and he goes through hardship to establish the 5 daily prayers, to do certain things that are difficult in his life. But when he actually needs to sort something out, he seeks right and he seeks left. He asks his wife, he asks his parents, he asks everyone around him, but he doesn't seek to give that level of importance to Allah. But look what happens with Zaynab. She made an oath. She said, I'm not going to do anything until I've asked Allah. And she ended up being our mother of the believers. And this situation was then recited in the Quran, and remains recited in Surah Ahzab until Yawm al-Qiyamah. From the benefits of Salat al-Istikhara is that a person has tranquility. And as we see in this dua here, ثُمَّ بَارِكْ لِي فِيهِ, he has tranquility, he is blessed. And in the end of the dua also, خَيْرَ حَيْثُ كَانَ ثُمَّ أَرْدِنِي بِهِ, and make me satisfied with whatever of the situation that I'm in. We have three characteristics from this istikhara which are intrinsic to the mu'min, to the believer and the person of tawheed. Tranquility in this life, and you can only get that if you have that purpose. Seeking Allah's blessings alone, and acceptance of the qadr. One of the Imams of the Salaf, Qatada rahimahullah, said, مَا تَشَاوَرُ قَوْمِ يَبْتَغُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, there is no group of people who consult one another, who make this istikhara to Allah and make it an issue between him and his friends, and they are able to do that. يَبْتَغُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, genuinely, for the sake of Allah, give each other advice. إِلَّا هُدُوا إِلَىٰ أَرْشَدْ أَمْرًا, except that they will be guided in their affairs. And this is a promise from Allah, and it's been tried and tested, and this is one of the Imams of the Salaf that is saying it to us. Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah said, after a person has done the istikhara, after he's made the supplication, after he has sought to get tranquility and blessings and acceptance of qadr of Allah and be pleased with that, Imam al-Nawawi says what he must do after that, ba'd al-istikhara, is do whatever which will create his heart to become open to the istikhara that he is seeking. And what that means is now that a person cannot have any desires or any agenda in himself when he is making the istikhara, قبل الاستخارة, before he makes this dua and supplication. بل ينبغي للمستخير ترك اختياره, he should leave all of his opinions and all of his desires and do this salat and supplication, and then seek from those people who are sincere around him. Not he himself and those people around him are those people who have any hawa in them or desires in them or any kind of sin which is apparent, and they are apparent, he himself and they, those people around him, apparent, are seeking the akhirah, seeking consultation with one another based on Allah's ilm and qudrah, except that Allah will make them firm in their affairs, and He will make true what is good for them, because la hawla wa la quwwa illa billah, and that person is giving all might and ability and power to Allah, and he's entrusting it to Allah, and he has sacrificed what he himself wants and what he himself thinks and given it precedence to Allah. And what this means is now a person becomes upright in his tawheed. Istikhara before Islam was something that people used to do, but they used to have an element of shirk in it. Not even an element, it was completely shirky. And this kind of jahiliyyah, you'll find that in the ummah today also. What they used to do before is they used to seek assistance from things that can't benefit them. They used to touch wood. They used to make tawaf around things that cannot benefit them. They used to listen and they used to recite verses and lyrics and poetry of celebrities that were there at that time in order to console them and try and gain some kind of omen or superstition from them. And obviously being upright and moral at that time wasn't a big issue. So those people they would seek consultation from would be those people who are immoral. And like we say, this is very much relevant in the ummah today. Shirk in the aspect of making the dua and the salah in itself and depending on Allah with His ilm and His qudrah and showing, a need, etc., and a weakness. But also, if you leave the religion of Islam, you could be a weak Muslim or you could be a non-Muslim. What is your criteria for those people around you, and what is your criteria of seeking consultation? For us, we've just talked about that. Seeking the akhirah, being upright, being trustworthy, being upon your religion, having expertise. However, it's become rampant today that people will seek istikhara and consultation with the most immoral of people. In actual fact, some people are sought to be an example when they've only become famous because they've done the most immoral of deeds in front of the whole of mankind. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, فَعَوَّدَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ أُمَّتِهِ بِهَذَا الدُّعَاء, that the Prophet ﷺ has exchanged this jahiliyyah with this dua and with this consultation from the jahiliyyah that they were upon. So in jahiliyyah, what they used to do is they used to have these kind of lots, they used to have sticks, and they used to use that to make superstition from them. Or if it lands in this way, they will do this, and if it lands in that way, they will do that. Or if it lands in a particular way, they will do this, and if it doesn't, they will do that. And all of that was superstition. It was just based on pure, what you could call luck, as in, whatever would happen. And it was just based on their superstition and the negativity that was connected to it. However, maqsood and al-Istikharah, what we learn from this Istikhara that the Prophet ﷺ exchanged the jahiliyyah for us, is to have tawakkul in Allah, and to in place, or to replace and to have full display of all of your affairs to your Creator and to give it to Him. And he says in the end of this, and this is why it's important, that a person will never, لا يذوق طعم الإيمان, a person will never taste the sweetness of Iman until he learns that Allah has full knowledge, Allah's qudra is vast, His ability and His power is vast, and that He is the one who can give you the good and take away from you the evil. And this is what we learn from this supplication here. And once a person has that, فَذَلِكَ عَلَامَةُ السَّعَادَةِ, that is a sign that a person has happiness in his life. This is the dua of Istikhara, and these are the meanings that we find within the Istikhara itself. But there's some fiqhi points of benefit that we can learn from the Istikhara. How does a person seek the consultation? Now, the ulama of the madhahib have discussed this. Does he do the dua and the salah first, or does he seek consultation first? What do you think? I've got an affair, I want to go for a particular job, I want to get a particular important affair in my life. Shall I ask my friends first, is this a good job, or shall I do istikhara first? Istikhara first. Why? We are seeking blessing from Allah, yes.
And guidance.
Guidance and knowledge and opening of a way. Why? Seek. Get some sort of idea, then ask Allah, yeah.
Yeah, onto that point, ultimately, Allah's guidance is the most beneficial. So, if you get Allah's guidance after you reach some sort of consultation, sort of like, it clears all doubts.
But for the flip side on that, if you're seeking consultation from the creation, where is your level of tawheed? Where is your level of tawheed in not seeking consultation with Allah first? What did Zainab say? Ma Nabi Salih, I'm not doing anything. I'm not seeking consultation from it, even Rasulullah. Hassan. Yeah. طيب, so you're using the asbab, but what comes first, the tawakkul or the... So the majority of the comes first, so you should pray the salat first. And this is the madhab of the Hanabila and the Maliki and many from the schools of thought, that a person starts with the salat. Because now here we have dalil. إِذَا هَمَّ أَهْدُكُمُ الْأَمْرِ, if something has affected you, فَلْيَرْكَعْ, pray 2 rak'at, rak'atayn min ghayri fariyah, ثُمَّ لَيَقُلْ, then he should say. This is the opinion of the majority. The Shafi'is have sided with the other opinion that you were saying, is that a person should seek consultation first, and not the other way around. And not because he's taking his asbab first. It is because if a person seeks consultation with Allah, and then I ask my mate, that's bad manners with Allah. So the Shafi'i said, you should make dua first. You should seek consultation first, and then make the dua. And they use the ayah. وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Consult. فَإِذَا أَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ Allah. When you have made a decision, then you supplicate and make the salat. So you can see the context of the ayah in the surah, but then you can see also the directness of the command of the Prophet ﷺ. And this, what seems to be the correct opinion, is that this is a general principle in the Sharia, and you probably benefit from this principle in any other scope, which is that if the Prophet ﷺ has told us something explicit, and you have another dalil which is understood in a way, and even if that understanding is very, very strong, the explicit takes precedence over the mafhum. The ulama say, al-mantuq yuqaddim al-mafhum. And this is an example of that. That if you have something which is an explicit direction and instruction from the Prophet ﷺ, إِذَا هَمَّ أَهْلُكُمْ بِالْأَمْرِ, if something happens in your life and it's affecting you, فَلْيَرْكَعْ, then you should pray 2 raka'at. And what we understand from the ayah is given an understanding which is credible. However, this takes precedence. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that if a person does this or a person does that he has done something wrong. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, after talking about what seems to be correct, he said whatever a person does is all correct. Nobody can say that Istikhara is invalid. And the ulama of the majority have agreed with this, that if a person does it in this way or that way, here we are just talking about what is better. Nabil.
Sorry, so what did you say? Strong opinion?
The strongest opinion is that he should pray the 2 raka'at, he should make the dua, and then he should seek consultation. Because the other thing is with that now, where does the consultation end? Not only has the person not asked Allah first and taken that importance, we've seen how Imam al-Qurtubi said, لا ينبغي يعني يقدم الأمر, that he should seek anything else, something which is important to him, that he should not ask Allah. It doesn't make sense. That person continually is trying to renew his iman and tawheed and worship, and something is important to him in his life, and he is asking his wife. Somebody who is important in his life, but he's not asked his Creator. So now what we learn from this is that he should make the dua and the supplication first, and then ask those people around him. That would be better. However, if a person does it in either way, then that's fine. But like we were saying, just going back to that point, which is that a person might want to ask then his mother, then his father, then his siblings, then his offspring, and it doesn't stop until he's asked maybe 10, 20 people, then he makes dua. That's not befitting. Is it permitted just to make the dua without the salat? What do you think? Yes. I said that at the beginning. The majority of ulama, and you'll find this with all of the madhahib, have said that making the dua alone is sufficient. Because Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that the dua is what a person is making. And the rak'atayn is only asking or seeking through it that a person will have that accepted. And this is again another general qa'idah, which is that after acts of worship, towards the end of that worship, you will find an opening for you. That window will be an opening for you. We talked about this also before, from the hikmah of making istighfar at the end of acts of worship in general, but the salat also. But it's also that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that sometimes it might be that you don't have a chance to pray the salat al-istikhara. Something very important has happened to you in your life. You might need to make a split decision. There, in that scenario, the dua will be fine. When does a person make the dua? This is another issue where the ulama have differed. Does the person make the dua after the final tashahhud, before the taslim, or does he make the dua after the taslim? And the majority of the ulama have said he makes it after the taslim, because the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيَرْكَعْ رَكَعَتِ مِنْ غَيْرِ فَرِيَّةٍ ثُمَّ لَيَقُلْ. After he has prayed the 2 rak'ah, then he should say. What that means, he's made the taslim and he's finished. And this is the opinion of the majority of the ulama. However, there's another opinion from Ibn Hajar rahimahullah. He said that a person should make it in sujood. Should make it in sujood. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that this falls in under the adhkar which come after the tashahhud al-akhir and before the taslim. So it's better for a person, we heard from the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, and the Prophet ﷺ taught him how to make the tashahhud and then the durood, and then فَلْيُخَيِّرْ مَا شَاءَ, then he can make any dua that he wants from he pleases. So he's saying that this is the time when dua is going to be accepted. It makes no sense that a person makes taslim and loses that moment and then makes dua. It doesn't make sense that a person has stayed up or wakes up in the middle of the night late to Qadr and he doesn't make dua. He says, no, I'm going to make dua after Salatul Fajr. Makes sense? Doesn't make sense. So Ibn Taymiyyah is using that same rationale, saying that this is the time before the taslim that the dua is going to be accepted. However, what seems to be apparent here, again, going back to that qaida, which is that the verbal command and direction takes precedence. Thumma qul is proof that it comes after the taslim. However, again, the ulama agreed that it's a broad scope. If you can make dua by itself, then if you do it before the taslim and after the taslim, it's just about what we think is better. Can a person repeat the Salat al-Istikhara? I want to go for this job. I've applied, I've done the Istikhara, I've asked other people and they said, yes, you should go for it. But I'm still not sure. Should he repeat or should he not repeat? The ulama, majority have said that he can repeat it as much as he needs. And there is no khilaf in this. Until he gets the insight that he wants. But what is the insight? Is he waiting for a dream? Is he waiting for some kind of, divine intervention? It's not about that. It's about your heart having been opened for you. So we find that in the dua, حيث كان ثم أردني به. The point here of the istikhara is that you have a decision made comfortable for you. And he does that as much as he needs. And there's also a story that happened in the time of the Salaf itself. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, when Muawiyah passed away, Muawiyah appointed Yazid to be his successor. Abdullah ibn Zubayr said, there are companions who are alive, including in your own government, Nu'man ibn Bashir and others. They have more precedence of being the Amir al-Mu'mineen than Yazid ibn Muawiyah. He's not even a companion. It doesn't make sense. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr said, I'm not going to give this man bay'ah. From his own ijtihad, he said, I'm not going to give him bay'ah. So now the government have said, if you don't give us bay'ah, you will be imprisoned. You're a criminal. Companion be a criminal. Footnote here, the ulama completely agreed that all of the companions had the right to make their own ijtihad. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he said, listen, I'm not going to be a free man, I'm going to go to Makkah. Why does he go to Makkah? Can they arrest him in Makkah? Can they harm him in Makkah? Can they hit him in Makkah? Can they do any kind of persecutions in Makkah? No. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr is hiding inside the Haram in Makkah. Yazid appoints a general. Now this general, he's not taking any prisoners. He's not messing around. He's a young man. He's very, very forceful. And he doesn't care what happens. And his name is al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. So he goes to Makkah and he says, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, come out right now or give bay'ah. Hand yourself in or give bay'ah. One or two options. And I'm going to wait here until you do so. Abdullah ibn Zubayr said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not moving. Can Hajjaj go into the Kaaba and grab him and arrest him? Because if he goes in, he has a right to defend himself, but Hajjaj will be the enforcer, so he can't. So what does he do? So he's waiting for Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Abdullah ibn Zubayr is not coming out. Hajjaj says, I am going to catapult Makkah. That was his rush thing. Catapult, what is catapult? You know what catapult is, yeah? You get a big ball and you throw it. But at that time, what they used to do with that ball, they used to make it fully liquid of flammables and set it on fire and then throw it. It's not just damage. When it lands, fire is going to spread because of the liquid that's in it. So Ibn Zubayr said, I don't know what to do now. And he's asking around the companions that were there with him in Makkah. And Al-Hajjaj keeps pelting and pelting and pelting until the Kaaba got destroyed. The Kaaba got lit and the Kaaba got destroyed. Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu, now you have to remember at this time, that Kaaba was the Kaaba that the Prophet ﷺ himself helped build with the Quraysh. So now he's got the Kaaba in front of him, destroyed. Can you imagine that right now? The Kaaba is destroyed. It's burnt. The area around it is burnt. What do I do in this scenario? Do I leave it like that? Because at least then we've got the Kaaba that the Prophet ﷺ built. Or do I make it myself? And I remember there's a hadith that my auntie told me. Who's his auntie? Anybody know who his auntie is? Aisha radiallahu anha. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr, his mother was Asma, Aisha's sister. So his grandfather is who? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr is saying here now, I remember there's a hadith from my auntie that the Prophet ﷺ said that had the Quraysh not seen it as being disrespectful, that they've just entered into Islam and straight away he wants to destroy the Kaaba and make it the way that Ibrahim built it. Does anybody know how Ibrahim built it? It was a rectangle. So that semicircle that we have now, the Hatim and the Hijr, was not part of what Ibrahim built. It was a rectangle like that. And the elevated door, the Prophet ﷺ didn't like either. Because that becomes just for the elite of the Quraysh. He said, no, we need to have a door like Ibrahim put on a level that me and you can even go into the Kaaba and pray. There's a door to enter, there's a door to exit, so it flows. And from the ulama, they've said it's from the qadr of Allah that it's ended up this way, because now, look at the vastness of Islam. If the door was on that level right now, it would have been very, very difficult, and it could have the most sinful of the people going into the Kaaba. However, a door has still been left open that you can still pray in the Hijr. But nobody's fighting over getting into the Kaaba itself and, damaging the Kaaba itself. Anyway, ala kulli hal, Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anh said, what do I do with the Kaaba? Shall I build it again or do I not build it again? So what he did is he did Istikhara for 1 night, for 2 nights, for 3. The point here is that he repeated the Istikhara whether to rebuild it or not. So then he done his Istikhara and his heart opened. He thought, I'm going to do it. But what do we have to do after he done the Istikhara? وَشَاوَرَ مَخْلُقِينَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَتَثَبَّتْ فِي أَمْرِهِ. You need to make tashawwur. You need to ask. So he asked Ibn Abbas, and Ibn Abbas said, if your house, your own personal house, was burnt, wouldn't it sadden you? Then what about the house of Allah? If your own house got burnt down and you didn't do anything about it, you'd be seen as somebody who is irresponsible. What about the house of Allah? So then his heart opened, and that was the answer to his istikhara. But the problem here is now, just like the time before when the Prophet ﷺ with the Quraysh were making the Kaaba, they had an idea that if you touch the Kaaba and you move just 1 rock, punishment will come down. Why? Anybody remember? Abraha wanted to destroy the Kaaba, and that involves you moving the Kaaba. If you touch the rocks that have been placed there, what's going to happen? The same thing that's going to happen to Abraha is going to happen to you. And that was what the Sahabas were thinking at that time. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he said, look, I've done the Istikhara, I've asked Abdullah ibn Abbas, and this is what I think we need to do. What we need to do is get some people to start moving the Kaaba and start rebuilding it. When he started to see people rebuilding it and nothing happened, he said that this is the answer to my Istikhara. And then he started joining himself in laying down the foundations. And he laid down the foundations according to Ibrahim and Islam. But then it got changed afterwards when the caliphate came actually into the hands of the Umayyads, and then they put it back how the Prophet ﷺ put it. And then the Abbasids came, and they said, we want to do it like Ibrahim did it. So they consulted Imam Malik. And Imam Malik said, no, what's happening now is that it becomes a tool between the Labours and the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. It's the same thing. Labour wants the Kaaba like this and the Conservatives want the Kaaba like this. It's the same thing. It became a politics issue. And Abbas said, no, we're following the way of Ibrahim. The Umayyads said, no, we follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And they make the Kaaba an issue of politics. So Imam Malik said, now from this moment on, nobody is allowed to rebuild the Kaaba, and it stays the way as it is, as the way the Umayyads built it, and this is what we see today. Renovations have happened, but we're talking about the foundations. So the point here behind this extensive story is that a person can repeat the Istikhara as much as he needs until the affair has been made open for him and his heart has settled into the affair. What we learn from this also is that a person being too detailed in dua is something which is haram. And it is actually a way that your dua will not be accepted. So in this dua, when we are making this dua, we are making to us and then you just say the amr. You just say, oh Allah, if you think that me going to this university is good for me in my dunya and my akhirah, then make it easy for me. He didn't say, this dua doesn't teach us to go into detail. I do a particular module but not do that module. And if I go to this university and do... There is no detail in making dua. What we are asking, oh Allah, give us the good of the dunya. The best du'as, the Prophet ﷺ said, were very, very brief and very, very concise. And they were very general in the sense of its wording, but profound in its meaning. So what we learn from the Istikhara also is that going into specifics is known as overstepping, and is a way that your dua will not be accepted. From the ulama, they've also said that when a person becomes specific, he might actually end up asking for something which is not good for him. Had he left it general, like we have in the Istikhara, Allah will open the way which is easy for him. So now if a person says, I want to go and study law, but I want to study, should I do criminal law or should I do X, Y, and Z law? And what shall I do? And then he goes into detail. What he has done in his dua, as he specified what in his own capacity is, of 5 or 10 options, when there could have been 20 options. Because of him overstepping this mark, in being too detailed, he doesn't know. This is why we said in the very beginning that Allah, His knowledge, all of these things, we are saying that we don't know. I only have 5 options in front of me, but with you could be 500. So show me the best way. And when you leave it general, you are leaving the options general also. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah says that what this all teaches us is that dua is a powerful tool in us seeking ways to benefit ourselves. If you have the adab of dua. When we are making dua and having tawakkul in Allah, we are affirming to Allah that we don't know where the benefit is. So this dua, particular istikhara, but dua in general, the concept of dua is putting trust in Allah and asking Him alone and just leaving it to Him. And this exemplifies the highest level of tawakkul. You can't do this with anything else except Allah. And making dua actually shows good manners in Allah, because you are affirming to Him that He is the one who's created you and He knows better for you than you know of yourself. Is it permissible for a person to combine issues when it comes to istikhara? So the Shaykh has, or the narration here says, will you sammi hajata? It doesn't say hawaj, or it doesn't have the plural. Can he say one, or can he say, does he have to do separate istikhara for each affair? So say he wants to do istikhara for about marriage, about buying a car, and about going to university. Can he combine all 3 in this istikhara? And the majority of ulama have said, yes, this is permissible. The ulama have said that he can say, list it as much as he wants. Yes, uncle. After istikhara? Is it prescribed for a person to send peace and blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ when making istikhara? The short answer to that is no. Because in a general sense, when you're making dua, yes, We've talked about that before. The Prophet ﷺ had ajil or had ajil, when he saw a man making dua and not sending peace and blessings, and he said that this man's hasty, and the Prophet ﷺ said that dua mu'allaka fi as-sama', is suspended in the sky hatta yusalliman, until you send peace and blessings. But what we learn also was that the Prophet ﷺ, when he gave us a dua, it becomes restricted to that. I'll give you another example. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, a man sneezed in his presence, and he said, Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. And Ibn Abbas rebuked him and said, no, that's not part of the supplication. In a general sense, of course you can do that. In a general sense, sending peace and blessings, one of the ways that you can have your difficulties removed. However, in this scenario, no, there's no delete. Therefore, specifying becomes an innovation. This is a very good question, because it's a very important principle, because we have another example of that also in the second to next point. The second point that I want to mention here is that some of the ulama have said that the istikhara must be independent. I think Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah was that opinion, that each one has his own one, but the majority have said that you can combine them. Can istikhara be done on behalf of other people? Can I do istikhara? So you know, for example, Jubair is much more pious than me. I'll tell him, listen, this is my issue. I'll do consultation with him. I say, listen, can you do istikhara for me? He can make dua for me. Can you do istikhara for me? Yeah. This is the point. It's about having the person have his heart opened up him himself. And Ibn Baz rahimahullah said, لا أعلم في هذا الدليل. There is no dalil for this. إنما جاء السنة في من أراد الشيء. The sunnah is that a person, he himself, has satisfaction in what he wants to do as a fact. Now the last point, going back to what the uncle was saying here, that principle, is that a person, and what we learn as a general thing, is that after the salat, a lot of people you will find, after they've done the taslim, is that they will start making ruqyah for themselves. And some of this obviously is innovated, there's no dalil for this, and some of it has dalil, but they are specifying after the salah for this. So now you will find people putting their hands on their eyes and saying, Ya Noor, Ya Noor, Ya Noor. There's no dalil for this. It's bid'ah, because there's no dalil. Or they put their hands, and if you do this, then you'll have good eyesight, and you'll have, I don't know what the claim is. Or that you put your hand on your head and you say, Ya Qawiyu, 7 or something times. Again, there is no dalil for this. But there is dalil to say that you can do falak al-nas, and you blow into your palms, and then you spread that over your body. The point here now that we're asking, do we do that after the salat? We've looked at last week the supplications or the adhkar to be said after the taslim. Now we have Salat al-Istikhara. Two things we have dalil for after the taslim, which is that you make adhkar, subhanallah, ayatul kursi, falaq al-nas, etc. Or you can make Salat al-Istikhara. After you've prayed salat, there is no situation where a person does ruqyah for himself. Because doing this Ya Qawiyu and Ya Noor and doing this falaq al-nas and blowing into yourself and blowing over your body, that is what the ulama have deemed as being ruqyah. And there is no dalil to say that ruqyah takes place after the salat. We either have the adhkar, which are prescribed, we looked at the last lesson before this, or we can have the istikhara dua. There is nothing else to say that you can do anything after the salat, habitually specifying that time, except these things. So some people, what they conflate and they mix up issues. They say, look, we can make dua, so then we can make ruqyah. This is the time, Allah is answering the dua. However, this is the point, going back to the principle that we were saying with uncle, which is that you can have something which is generally prescribed. If my son is not well, or if I'm not well, I make ruqyah upon myself. That is general. However, if I'm going to specify to a particular time, a specific time, or place, or manner, or amount, or time, or place, or manner, or all of these things, you specify it, then that would become an innovation. This is Salat al-Istikhara. I ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all, and I hope that it's been fruitful, and I ask Allah to make this as a hujjah for us and not against us, that Allah opens our hearts to depend on Him and show weakness to Him and show dependency on Him, and that He improves and strengthens our tawheed in Him and our awareness of His names and His attributes and His actions, and that we understand to the best of our ability His qudra and His ability over us, and that perfects our tawakkul that we have and our connection that we have with Him, and that Allah opens our ways of having khair in our dunya and barakah, so that we can be pleased with Him and Him pleased with us in our akhirah, and that Allah answers our supplications and our istikhara and gives us the best of the dunya in what we are trying to achieve in the goodness of it, and that we have a good aqibah from it in our akhirah, and that Allah doesn't leave us to ourselves, and Allah doesn't leave us to those people who cannot benefit us and who do not have knowledge and who do not have qudra, and that Allah doesn't leave us to think that we are self-sufficient and that we don't need Him, and that Allah doesn't disgrace us and humiliate us in the dunya or in the akhirah and our loved ones, that Allah opens our heart to have tawakkul in Him and have firmness in the qadr that He has already decreed, firmly believed in our hearts and our iman, and that Allah opens the doors for us, for Him to be pleased with us, and that we don't die except that He is pleased with us, and that He unites us with those that we love and are close to in our akhirah, and that we are not humiliated with one another when we see Him on Yawm al-Qiyamah. هذا والله أعلم وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And بإذن next week we will start the biggest chapter of this book, which is the Adhkar al-Sabah wal-Masa, the morning and evening supplications. And this consists of, in the version that I have here, nearly 20 pages, or more than 20 pages. It's the biggest chapter of the book, and it will take some time for us to cover, but whatever Allah makes easy for us, bi'idhnillah, we'll start from next week. Barakallahu feekum, jazakallahu khair. Yes, uncle. Can we make the Salat al-Istikhara at any time? The answer to that is you can make it at any time. However, the question here now is, so if you have an issue, you have something which is troubling you, you will pray 2 rak'at nawafil, then you make the dua. You can do that any time. But the problem here now is, can you do that at times? Can you do that after Fajr? Can you do that after Asr? And can you do that at Zawal time? This is the issue. The majority of ulama say no. The Shafi'i say yes. And I will say the balanced view in this is that if it is absolutely pressing, and you think that you need to pray 2 rak'at and the dua itself will not help you, then you can pray the Salat on the condition that the makruh time is not the most specified out of that makruh time. What I mean by that is that when the ulama have said that Salat after Fajr and Asr and Zawal are not allowed, these are the 3 times. So once you've prayed Salat al-Fajr, you can't pray Nawafil. Once you've prayed Salat al-Asr, you can't pray Nawafil. When it's Zawal time, you can't pray Nawafil. That is well understood. However, when the sun is actually setting, or when the sun is actually rising, that becomes the even more emphasized time when it is haram for you to pray. So when the sun is rising, I believe now it's about 6:30, and you think, okay, let me think about this. I need to do something which is very important. Let me pray Salat al-Istikhara at 6:29, 6:30. As the sun is rising, I say that's not allowed. However, if you've prayed Salat al-Fajr 5 o'clock, and at 20 past 5 an important affair happens in your life, and you think, I need to make a decision, in that scenario you've still got over 1 hour until you get to that specific haram time. If you can wait until after duha, then that's even better. But in that scenario, then bi'idhnillah, you can pray the 2 rak'at and make the dua. Yes, uncle. Yeah, exactly. So now it's become an issue of business, unfortunately. You can make istikhara and you'll charge, if it's a very important affair, it'll be £1,000. If you want me to do it twice, I'll give you a discount. This is what they're doing. And they're making business out of the religion, and we all know that اشتروا بآيات الله ثمنا قليلا. Allah says that these people have monopolized the religion. وأكلهم السحت. Allah talked about those people from Ahl al-Kitab before. They took people's wealth unjustly under the name of the religion. We know, what we've covered today, that the Salat al-Istikhara, the whole point of it is that you display tawheed and tawakkul and weakness with Allah alone. Until Allah alone opens your heart for a affair that's going to benefit you in your akhirah. So there is no delil for a person to do. I'll ask somebody else. Give me the other. Give me the other. Yeah. Ask a question after the lunch. Ask a question after the lunch.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Istikhara. Istikhara. Salat al-Istikhara can be prayed at any time during the day, except unless it's after one of the haram times, which is after Fajr, Asr or Zawal. But if you want to pray at night time, if you pray at morning time, you pray in the afternoon, then it's all fine. So you pray 2 rak'at. There's nothing specific about what you should recite in each rak'ah. Some of the ulama said that you should do kafirun first and then ikhlas next. And then you do the dua which is prescribed for istikhara. Yeah.
Special time, no special.
No, there's no special time. There's no special time. Barakallah. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah. Hassan.
If, for example, it's time when it's makruh to pray salah, and you've got an issue that you want to make istikhara over, would you better to make istikhara with the dua at that time, or to wait until that makruh time has passed and then make the salah?
In a makruh time, is it better for us to wait, or just to make the dua, or pray the salah? What scenario? Basically, you've got all 3 scenarios. Either you make the dua, or you pray the salah, make the dua, or you wait. Now, like I said before, the majority of ulama have said the makruh times. Let's first understand what is the makruh time. The Prophet ﷺ said a person shouldn't pray بعد طلوع الشمس any nawafil until the sun has fully risen. The majority of ulama have understood that to be makruh. But the correct opinion with this, bi'idhnillah, is that it is haram. It's not even a makruh, it's a haram, because the Prophet ﷺ has forbidden it. However, the balance view also in trying to understand what the Shafi'is call as dhawat al-asbab, if there's a need for you to pray, then you can pray. However, what I would say in that scenario, is there a genuine need for you to do the istikhara? And our Sheikh Abdul Karim Qudair, Hafidhullah, said that people have taken this matter very lightly now. Very, very lightly. To the extent that a person will come as the sun is setting, or as the sun is rising, or the peak of Zawal time, and he'll pray Taheed to Masjid. And that's not befitting, because now he's rejecting the nusus. And this is the text. And this is exactly why the Prophet ﷺ has forbidden something. We have a general qaida. We've been talking about a few principles. One qaida, which is well known, is that an-nahi yuqaddim al-amr. That if there is something which is haram, then that takes precedence over what has been prescribed or legislated. So now we are talking about something where the Prophet ﷺ has said is haram. Then we've got the istikhara, which is something which is mustahab. Let's say it's better for you to refrain. We've got the whole day, especially now, when the days are long, you've got a lot of time where you can be outside the makruh times. Okay, I mean, Salat al-Asr is early and Salat al-Maghrib is late. There's a good 3 hours, maybe even 4 hours in summer. And that's, like I said, the balance view is that if there is a pressing reason for you to do so, then yes. If you can wait genuinely, make the dua and then wait. And that would be for istikhara, and that would be the case for all salawat.
There's no, some ulama I think mentioned that when you recite when you pray the rakat that you, in the first rakat you recite Surah al-Kafirun.
Yeah. Some of the ulama have said that it's mustahab because this is a general principle or act of the Prophet ﷺ, is to do kafirun and ikhlas in the first and the second, but there is no specific dalil for that, which is sahih. So the ulama have said that there isn't anything specific, but if he does that, then that's good. If he does kafirun in the first rak'ah and ikhlas in the second.
And raising the hands when they istikhara, is that from the sunnah as well?
Raising the hands after he has done the taslim, does he raise his hands when he is making the istikhara? Again, this is an issue where the ulama have differed. Some of them have said that he doesn't do that, and I think this is the strongest opinion. However, because there is a generality of raising the hands when making dua, Allah yastahi and yuradduha sifra, that Allah is too shy that when you raise your hands, that Allah returns your hands without giving you anything. This is the karam and the generosity of Allah. So some of the ulama have took that in its general sense and applied that here. But if we take that qaida that we were talking about before, there are certain things which are general. You can't apply those to those that are specific. Therefore, when you're making istikhara, you shouldn't raise your hands. However, if a person was to raise his hands, we won't say that he's a mubtada, he's done something wrong. We'll say that it's better for you not to do so, and if you did so, that'd be fine. And especially if he does it sometimes, then that is okay also. However, there's another issue that I don't think we covered, is that can a person do the istikhara after an obligatory prayer or a normal rawatib or normal nafil prayer where he hasn't intended the istikhara? So for example, what I mean by nafil and he hasn't intended, meaning that the istikhara is a nafil in itself, but say for example he's just prayed 2 rakat tahajjud, then he thinks of something after he's made the taslim. Can he do the istikhara now? Or he's prayed Salat al-Fajr or Dhuhr or something, can he do the istikhara after it? Or he's prayed the rawatib, can he do the istikhara after it? Like we've seen before, similar to what Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah was saying about having each particular mas'ala having its own independent istikhara. Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah said no, you have to pray 2 rak'at for each particular istikhara, for each particular issue, and make dua for that particular thing. So you can't combine them, and you can't combine the salawat also. That was his opinion. However, another principle in the Sharia is that if something is mustahab, generally you can't make something which is mustahab haram. So in that scenario, so something which is mustahab in its asl, if you were to do it something in a slightly variating way, it won't become haram. This is general, but there are exceptions. So what the ulama have said now, Imam al-Nawawi and others from the ulama have talked about it. So if a person's prayed Salat al-Dhuhr, for example, and then he thinks of an affair, he's done to sleep, and he thinks, okay, well, maybe I should make dua now about that job that I've applied for, something like that, or shall I apply for that job? Then he can make the istikhara at that point because he has done the salawat. And we've talked about this before also, is that these 2 rak'at are for the sake of having your dua accepted. For the sake of your having dua accepted. Because nobody can pray these 2 rak'at and then not make dua and said, I've prayed Salat al-Istikhara. The maqsood is that he makes the dua, and those 2 rak'at that he is doing is so that the dua will increase in his potency and his ikhlas and his dependency and those things that we learned from the dua and, affirming the qudra and the ilm and showing weakness and asking for help in the dua. And the salah reinforces those points. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بإذن الله, next week, after Salatul Maghrib again, we'll have another sitting from the book Hisn Muslim, where we will study the adhkar of the morning and the evening. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.